Picture the scene. You are inside the Crypto.com arena in Los Angeles. The Indiana Fever are absolutely rolling. They are up by 14 points, putting together the most cohesive, dominant stretch of basketball they have played all young season. Caitlin Clark is an absolute maestro on the floor, dicing up the Sparks defense with surgical precision, dominating the paint, and orchestrating an 18-5 run to close out the second quarter. The momentum is entirely in Indiana's favor. The narrative is shifting. The haters are being completely silenced. And then, with exactly 20 seconds remaining in the first half, a WNBA referee decides that the most dangerous, electrifying, and economically powerful player in the entire history of women's basketball needs to be silenced. You just watched the viral video. You saw her walk up to the official. Her hands were clapping. Her eyes were locked. Her voice was rising. Not because she was out of control, not because she was throwing a violent tantrum, but because she was a fierce, passionate competitor, telling him exactly what she thought of his highly questionable work. And instead of taking it, instead of absorbing the emotion, the way every single professional referee in every single professional league on the planet has been meticulously trained to handle a frustrated superstar, he handed her a technical foul. A technical foul against a player who was winning. A technical foul against a player who was 20 points into an absolute statement game. A technical foul against a player who, let us be incredibly clear, has had a very specific, very documented, and highly controversial pattern of contentious moments with very specific members of this WNBA officiating roster. Welcome back to WNBA She Serves. You already know exactly why you clicked on this video. If you are sick to your stomach of the mainstream media protecting these referees, if you are exhausted by the corporate establishment ignoring the absolute coaching malpractice happening on the sidelines, you have found your absolute sanctuary. We do not do corporate spin. We do not protect the WNBA league office. We give you the raw, unfiltered, high-octane truth about the business and the blood sport of professional basketball. Grab a seat, lock in, and turn your volume all the way up to the absolute maximum level. Because today, we are surgically dissecting the absolute officiating disgrace that just unfolded in Los Angeles. We are breaking down the horrific technical foul on Caitlin Clark. We are exposing the referee behind the whistle. And most importantly, we are going to look directly at head coach Stephanie White, and we are going to analyze exactly why the entire Fever fan base is actively booing her and demanding her immediate termination. Let us start at the exact moment that turned a dominant feel-good halftime lead into a massive internet-breaking controversy. With 20 seconds left in the half, Caitlin Clark was called for a highly debatable offensive foul. It happens. It's a physical game. But what happened next is where the story gets deeply, deeply infuriating. Clark approached the official, referee Jason Alabanza, and passionately expressed her displeasure. She was animated, she was loud, she was frustrated. And here is my absolute unfiltered take on this. Everything Caitlin Clark did in that specific moment is something you can watch happen in absolutely any NBA game, any EuroLeague game, and any competitive WNBA game on any given night of the week, without a technical foul being issued. Players talk to referees. Superstars specifically talk to referees. That is part of the fundamental fabric of professional basketball. The great officials manage the emotion. The weak officials escalated. What Caitlin Clark did was not exceptional. What referee Jason Alabanza did in response was. The game film shows that Alabanza initially let it go. He heard her, he processed what she was saying, he decided that it did not cross the threshold, and he started to walk away. But then, he completely changed his mind in the final seconds before halftime and teed up the face of the league. The only thing that changed between let it go and technical foul was that Clark kept talking. And newsflash to the WNBA, players keep talking to referees every single night, without that being the ultimate outcome. And here is where the financial stakes make this situation incredibly dark. Under the WNBA's new collective bargaining agreement, A technical foul now carries a massive $500 penalty. Compare that to just a year ago when the fines were significantly lower. The financial stakes on every single one of these interactions have more than doubled. Yet the officiating accountability mechanisms, the transparency around which officials are assigned to which games, the processes by which these problematic patterns are reviewed by the league, none of that has publicly evolved in any way that matches the commercial growth of this league. Caitlin Clark now has 9 career technical fouls, 6 in her rookie season, 2 in an injury-shortened 2025, and now 1 to open 2026. The question the WNBA league office absolutely must answer is not simply how many technicals Clark has accumulated, but who is calling them, under what highly specific circumstances, and whether the emotional threshold being applied to her matches the threshold applied to every other superstar in this league. Because the video evidence strongly suggests it absolutely does not. Caitlin Clark's frustration with officials does not exist in a vacuum. It comes from 2 agonizing years of documented video evidence that the brutal physical treatment she receives from opposing defenses on the basketball court does not consistently generate the foul calls that the exact same treatment against other players would generate. The fans know it. The broadcasters have noted it on live television, and Clark herself has addressed it in press conferences. She is the player who arguably receives the least favorable foul calling treatment relative to the massive physical contact she absorbs. And she is also the player who gets hit with a technical foul for vocally protesting it. That is not a coincidence. That is a targeted dynamic, and the WNBA needs to address it immediately. But the officiating disgrace is only half of the story. The other half of the story, the part that has Fever Nation absolutely revolting right now, is the complete and total cowardice of head coach Stephanie White. When your franchise superstar is getting targeted by a referee, when your generational engine is getting teed up on a completely bogus, ego-driven call, where in the absolute world is the head coach? When that technical foul was called, the cameras panned to the Indiana Fever bench. And what was Stephanie White doing? Was she sprinting onto the floor to defend her player? Was she getting in Jason Alabanza's face? Was she strategically picking up a technical foul of her own to send a massive message to her locker room that she has their backs? Absolutely not. Stephanie White was completely silent. She was passive. She stood there and watched her franchise player take the absolute heat. This is exactly why the fan base is demanding her termination. A head coach's job is not just to draw up plays on a whiteboard. A head coach's job is to protect their players. It is to go to war for them. It is to create a shield between the unfair officiating and the superstar on the floor. Stephanie White has completely, totally failed at that fundamental aspect of leadership. And if you look closely at the actual offensive structure of this team, the betrayal goes even deeper. Caitlin Clark finished this game with 20 points and 8 assists. She shot 1 for 7 from the three-point line. The lazy, casual analysts will tell you that she just had a rough shooting night. But we do not do lazy analysis here at WNBA She Serves. When you meticulously watch the game film, when you look at exactly what is being designed for which players, a very different, highly disturbing picture emerges. Kelsey Mitchell had 17 points at halftime. 17 points on a massive volume of shot attempts that was extraordinary relative to her teammate, who last I checked is the most marketable, offensively gifted player in the history of women's professional basketball. Stephanie White is deliberately running an offense where Kelsey Mitchell is the primary scoring option, and Caitlin Clark is being relegated to a facilitating, supporting function. The issue is not that Kelsey Mitchell is a co-star. The issue is what happens after Caitlin Clark distributes the basketball. She kicks it out, she creates the read, she opens the look, and then the possession continues, and the ball completely stops. The ball does not come back to Caitlin Clark. The reintegration of Clark as a scoring option after she facilitates has been completely systemically absent in these early games. Caitlin Clark was not out of rhythm from the perimeter because she forgot how to shoot. She was out of rhythm because the offensive system being designed by Stephanie White, is explicitly not calibrated to put her in rhythm from the perimeter. This is the massive, undeniable tension sitting right in the middle of this franchise's identity. Who is this offense actually built around? Why is the league's most commercially significant player at the center of yet another officiating controversy, with a specific official who has documented prior interactions with her? And when does the WNBA decide that institutional silence in the face of these recurring patterns is significantly more damaging than the transparency of actually holding their referees accountable? Those questions do not disappear just because the Indiana Fever got an 87-78 victory. They do not disappear because the box score looks clean at the final buzzer. The fans are wide awake. They are watching the film. They are actively booing the offensive structure. They are demanding accountability from the WNBA league office regarding Jason Alabanza. And they are screaming for the Indiana Fever front office to completely clean house and fire Stephanie White. The Fever are a good team on paper. They may even be a very good team. But good is not the goal. The goal is a dynasty. The goal is great. And the massive, suffocating distance between where this team is right now and where they need to be runs directly through the cowardly coaching decisions and the highly suspicious officiating that we just witnessed in Los Angeles. This is WNBA She Serves. We are the only channel on this platform willing to look the establishment in the eye and tell you the raw, unfiltered truth. If this breakdown hit different, if you are as completely frustrated about that bogus technical foul as every single Fever fan with functioning eyes should be right now, do not just sit there. Smash that subscribe button right now and join the fastest growing community of highly educated basketball fans on the internet. Hit that like button to feed the algorithm and force YouTube to push the absolute truth to the masses. And most importantly, I need to hear your absolute, unfiltered thoughts in the comments section below. Did Caitlin Clark deserve that technical foul? Or was referee Jason Alabanza completely out of line? Is Stephanie White deliberately designing the offense around Kelsey Mitchell instead of Clark? And do you think the Fever front office will actually listen to the fans and fire the head coach? I want to read every single theory, every single tactical breakdown, and every single hot take you have. Drop them in the comments right now. Hit that notification bell, because the drama in the WNBA is reaching critical mass, and we will be right here, breaking down every single moment. Keep your eyes on the court.
Institutional response, then a $500 fine and radio silence. Now let's talk about the other numbers from this game, because the story of this victory is not purely about officiating controversy. The Indiana Fever turned the ball over 16 times. 16. That is a number that should make Stephanie White very uncomfortable regardless of what the final score says. The reason it did not cost Indiana, the game comes down to one thing. The Los Angeles Sparks matched that carelessness with 19 turnovers of their own, which neutralized most of the damage. But the Fever cannot build a legitimate championship run on the assumption that every opponent is going to be equally generous. 16 turnovers against a disciplined, well-coached team will get you beaten by double digits. That number needs to come down significantly as the competition level rises through the season. There is no version of this team's ceiling that includes a 16 turnover average. That is simply not sustainable basketball. The positive counterweight to the turnover story is the free throw shooting, and this deserves genuine recognition. 87% from the line is excellent basketball. It is the kind of efficiency that compounds over a long season, that holds up in fourth quarter pressure situations, and that separates teams capable of closing games from teams that hand victories back when it matters most. Indiana shot it from the line like a team that has done the work. That is a real positive. Combined with an improved rebounding performance, Indiana out-rebounded the Sparks by 7 on the night. The physicality and effort-based metrics were notably better than what the season-opening loss to Dallas showed. Steps in the right direction deserve acknowledgement even in the middle of a critical breakdown. Clark led the Fever to a 4-8, 3-4 lead into halftime as Indiana closed the second quarter on a 1-8-5 run. And 1-8-5 run. That is the kind of stretch that shows you what this team is capable of, when the execution is present, when the movement is clean, when everyone is reading the same page. The problem is that a team this talented should not have those stretches arrive and depart in waves. The goal for 2026 has to be sustaining that level of execution across full games, not producing it in flashes between extended stretches of dysfunction. Clark scored 7 points in the first 2 minutes of this game. She had 3 assists in the first quarter alone. She finished the half with 11 points and 6 assists, having not yet connected on any of her three-point attempts, and still looked like the most impactful player on the floor because she was finding her way to the basket and creating for teammates at a level that simply does not exist without her. On a night when the three-point shot was not there, she willed her way to 20 points through drives, through finishing through the kind of creative interior scoring that represents a genuinely new dimension of her game. That is growth. That is a player who has added a layer to her offensive repertoire that makes her harder to guard and that creates a different set of problems for opposing defenses, even when the primary weapon is not firing. Here's what I want to leave you with on the subject of Caitlin Clark and these early 2026 games, because I think it is the most important contextual point of this entire conversation. She is producing elite numbers on a team that is still figuring out how to fully optimize her. The shooting percentages from three-point range do not reflect her ceiling. They reflect the quality of the shots she is being given within a system that is not yet fully calibrated to create the highest value looks for her most dangerous weapon. The technical foul against Jason Alabanza is not a story about Clark losing control. It is a story about a player who has been absorbing physical treatment and officiating frustrations for 2+ professional seasons, finally reaching a visible breaking point at the exact moment when she was dominating the game enough that it felt genuinely absurd to be on the wrong end of. Another questionable call. The win was real. The 8-7-7-8 final score was real. The 20 points and 8 assists were real. And the questions, every last one of them, are all Street Hoops is where the real basketball conversation lives. No corporate filter, no safe takes. Just the game, the drama, and the truth. We'll see you. Indiana got the win. They do not disappear because Clark's line looked clean at the final buzzer. They sit in the middle of this franchise's identity and they're so real. Who is this offense actually built around? Why is the league's most commercially significant player at the center of yet another officiating controversy with a specific official who has documented prior interactions with her? When does the WNBA decide that institutional silence in the face of these recurring patterns is more damaging than the transparency of acknowledging that the concerns are being taken seriously? Those questions do not disappear because the Fever are good. They may be very good, but good is not the goal. The goal is great, because it will continue to sit there until someone in a position of institutional authority decides to address them with something more substantive than a fine and a form letter. And the distance between where this team is right now and great runs directly through every question I just asked you. This is Dre Fiver. You have been watching Street Hoops. If this breakdown hit different, if you are as frustrated about that technical foul as every Fever fan with functioning eyes should be right now, smash that like button because the algorithm needs to know this conversation is happening. Drop your take in the comments. Did that tech on Clark deserve to be called? Was Alabanza out of pocket? Is the Fever offense quietly a Kelsey Mitchell showcase with Clark in a supporting role? I want to hear where you stand. And if you are new to this channel and you found this video, subscribe right now because on the next one.